furnace work?
I'm sorry,
Does this furnace work?
we couldn't get upstairs. This is the Union Street one,
Mm.
because we couldn't get upstairs, so we don't know.
Oh. God.
It's gonna be a real stupid question about Union Street and actually Essex. Do these people charge rent?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Nantucket Board of Health, Thursday, January 19th, 2023 Board of Health meeting. I'd like to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded by video and audio. And for those of you joining us on video conference, if you are called upon, please state your name for the record clearly and raise your hand button or raise your hand in the box. And if we see you, we'll call on you. Okay, public comments. So is there anything that's not on the agenda that anybody would like to talk about? And I see we have Mr. Curtis Barnes here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Curtis Barnes for the record. I'm just trying to get clarification on the short-term rental situation because today's paper said planning board isn't going to make any recommendations. But if I'm not incorrect, aren't you supposed to be having registration forms available starting next week?
Yes, the registration forms, Granicus, the software company that we have, is reaching out to everyone who's on registered with the state. They're going to be sending out letters to all of them first, and then they're going to be using their web crawler to send letters to all of Airbnb, VRBO. All we're doing as the health department and the Board of Health this year is registration. The zoning articles, that was the Article 42 work group, that is for zoning decisions. That is independent to what we're doing. All we're doing is registering this year. No enforcement is happening.
Well, one of my questions is, I used to own a house in West Yarmouth. And I have been doing some research, and both Barnstable and Yarmouth require all rental properties to be registered. Are we requiring all rentals or just short term?
As of right now, just short term, because that's the way Article 39 was written.
I would call to the attention of the board that I think that you should be doing what other communities are doing. I mean, I have an apartment building. If I build a house, I have to get the building department to inspect it to get a CO. And I maintain my properties pretty well. But it strikes me that year-round rentals, I'm looking at Richmond, you have the apartment buildings there. And it seems to me that consistent with what our fellow communities on the Cape have been doing since 2006, which is when this was implemented, that to register and to inspect, at least in my case, they did an initial inspection, make sure the smokies were there, that egress was proper, and then you renew every year online. And I believe, if I read correctly, the registration fee is going to be how much?
Is $250.
If you live in Yarmouth, it's 80. And if you live in Barnstable, it's 90 for each unit. So as I recall, town council said that you could not charge more than the actual cost of putting the fee in. So I'm curious how you got to $250.
So $250 based. So two quick things. to go back to your previous point about registering year round, if we, as the Board of Health or the Health Department, had been consulted by the planning board when they created Article 39, we would have told them that our biggest issue is actually year-round
Of course
rentals,
it is.
not
That's
short-term
where your
rentals.
complaints are.
And you'll see that there are two condemnations on today's
Yes.
agenda, and those were year-round rentals.
Yes, I understand that.
So that was unfortunate. Article 39 was put on the warrant without us ever seeing it. The $250 that's on there, what we did was we used the 2,000, let me confirm that number.
Yeah, the state registration of 2000.
Exactly. So we did 2,000 over to cover the costs of, sorry, I'm moving too quickly. The contract price, yeah, let me just slow down. The contract price of Granicus is $300,000 a year for this year. So we did 300,000 divided by 2,000 houses. That came out to $150 per property. And then we added that extra 100 to cover the cost of an employee to work full-time and do the inspections and do the registration.
Well, as I read the newspaper a couple of weeks ago, when Ann retired,
Yes.
you said you delayed it until you could get an office manager. So you are hiring an additional person instead of the office manager?
We will be, well, we're registering everyone first this year. That's why our revolving account is capped at 300,000, so that we can do that data. But if it is required, it should be able to cover the cost of one of our current inspectors is what we're trying to do. If it requires bringing in an extra person, we will. The new office manager starts this coming Monday. Her name is Heather. And we should be able to start moving forward at that point.
Well, interestingly enough, as I recall, you used to hire per diem to do health inspection or restaurant inspections in the past. And I'm thinking if you're going to have 2,000 inspections, to bring a couple of per diem people on, like I would like to be a per diem as a CSL holder, or Jeff, who was in the building department. There are people available who could do that on a per diem basis without hiring a full-time person to do it. Is the Granicus contract with the health department or with the town?
It is with the town. It is not with the health department.
Then I don't think it should be considered distributed 100% to the health department. I'm just wondering how you're getting to 250 when everyone else can do it for 80 or 90 bucks.
The revolving account is not administered by the health department. It's administered by town administration.
Well, let me
Finance.
put it this way, for the record, I think the fee is excessive based on the experience of others. I don't think Granicus should be 100% charged against the fee. And I will continue to make that point in various places at various times.
Understood.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure to see you hard at work.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you,
Curtis.
Curtis.
Sit down and enjoy the rest of the show.
I am. I want to see who you're going to condemn.
Okay, do you want to go to director's report now or after?
Sorry,
excuse
Terry.
me. Yeah,
Oh, got a hand up.
I just wanted to let everybody know that this will be my last Board of Health meeting as your minutes taker.
You stole my thunder. That was going to be my first.
No, I'm going to steal it right away from you.
So yes, director's report starts. Terry Norton, our minutes taker, is retiring, and we were going to request a real thank you to you, Terry, for all the hard work you have done for seriously these last few decades at this point. So we really appreciate all the work you've done for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
This is Terry's last meeting, and we wish you well, Terry. Thank you so much. And then moving very quickly, just so that we can get moving. What we did, we are currently in in the peer review stage right now for a publication on our tick-borne illnesses our tick-borne illness reports for the last 10 years. I've been working with Dr. Allison Snow out of Ohio State University. We did submit for publication last week or 2 weeks ago now. So that's great news. What it really shows is that Nantucket is a bit unique, where we do get a lot of co-infections of Lyme and Anaplasma, or Lyme and Babesia. And what we're also seeing is the occasional myomotoi co-infection with Lyme. But what we're finding, what we're pushing in this Journal of Medical Entomology, is that we are also undercounting Anaplasma and Babesia. Because we're counting Lyme, we see Lyme and we treat it immediately with Cipro. It also treats this other illness like Babesia or Anaplasma, or just Babesia or Ehrlichia. So the Anaplasma usually doesn't show up until later. So we are counting the Anaplasma co-infections correctly, but we think we are gravely undercounting Babesia co-infections and Ehrlichia co-infections because of the way it is treated. So that is part of what we're pushing out in this. So it's a really interesting result that we've been finding.
Are there other tick infections that, lower incidence, but that are appearing on island? That you're just from.
We have been seeing.
Didn't test positive for the others, but they were sure it was a tick infection.
Yes. So luckily we haven't seen STARI, which is the Southern Tick Associated Rash Illness, STARI. We haven't been seeing that so far, knock on wood, because that is associated with the Lone Star tick, which is starting to show up on island. We have seen some alpha galactose allergies showing up. That is still very rare, but it is popping up. It is not a reportable illness under MAVEN, so I haven't seen the data, but anecdotally from some of our medical providers here, we are seeing the alpha galactose allergy, which is a Lone Star tick associated illness. And knock on wood, we still have not seen any Powassan virus on island, but we are seeing it on the Cape. So it is only a matter of time. Myomotoi is a Borrelia species as well. It is a lot more rare than Lyme, but we have, in the last 10 years worth of data that I pulled and collated, we had just over 10 or so cases. So on average, about one a year, but they really do, they're, clustering within families. So it's probably a husband, wife, or a couple going on a hike, and it probably gets on the dog, and then the tick also hits them in their own home. So that's how we're seeing those co-infections, but on average, only about one a year. And so it is pretty rare. And then those are the three most rare illnesses that we have associated, that we only have seen two of them, luckily. Powassan, we are monitoring. And then as far as the other vector-borne illnesses that we're seeing, we are not seeing many, knock on wood, still not seeing any of the Tripoli mosquitoes, and we're not seeing West Nile virus mosquitoes either. So this year's vector report was actually really good. I was just appointed as well onto the Cape and Islands Tick-Borne Illness Task Force. So my first meeting of that was today. So we should be working together on a lot more information. A lot of information sharing between Martha's Vineyard, Cape, Barnstable County, and us. So that's going to be really good for our tick-borne illness information. And we are currently planning a medical provider webinar series to do trainings, and so that they can get continuing medical education, some CME points for that. So good moves in front of the tick-borne illness.
And any update on the MIT project with the?
I don't have the update, but not right now. But we did discuss a little bit about that, the MIT project with Joanna and Kevin, they were able to, without getting too in the weeds here, they were able to create a mouse model. The issue, what they're running into though, is probably because of a bottleneck event here on the island, with the island being so isolated, our white-footed mice vary genetically, so much so that they cannot be mated with the laboratory mice. So they're trying to find a way to create a mouse model using Nantucket mice. That's the last update that I had, and I believe that was from November. But that's just where we are with that. And then as far as the strategic planning goes, for some reason, I didn't bring it with me, but we are discussing moving forward and redoing a new 5-year strategic plan this year. With Janet Schulte retiring next month, she is our town strategic planner and projects manager. With her retiring, it is going to fall more on us again to do it internally again, but I don't have a problem with that. We can use an intern to start coordinating some of the work. And I think I'll leave that there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Review of the minutes for December 15th.
I know Carrie had one
Yeah,
suggested edit.
on the North Shun Way, it didn't pass unanimously. I voted no. I know it had it passed unanimously. So
So
that was the only
Terry,
thing.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't take that down. But yeah, you can approve the minutes with a motion as amended. I've already made that correction,
Okay,
basically.
thank you.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Loan requests, 24 Ridge Lane.
this is a loan request for a septic upgrade. Standard location. We don't have any objections to this. However, it is important for me to put it on the record as well that this is the last of the available funds for the septic loan program for this fiscal year. We do have an article on town meeting to request another 2 million. That will be on town meeting in May, and that'll be available starting July 1st. One of the things that I do want to do ahead of time, though, is set up a list of criteria for a new policy, because as prices are going up, $2 million is really only a little bit over 20 septic systems. So it's when you count in all of the things that have to go in it. So I want to have a discussion with the board between now and July 1st to set up a policy. Things like, should we cap the amount of money that we're giving? Should we stop providing funding to do the landscaping? Little things like that. Or should we also look into establishing a revolving account to start capturing some of the funding for permits in order to do our own, kind of like what the Cape does with their program, to start rolling in a project like that.
Does the money that we're getting increase at all, or are we fixed?
We're fixed at that 2% right now. So we can, if we do set up a revolving account to start collecting our own administrative funding, we can vote to increase that.
How much of the
percentage.
money that we loan out comes back as people pay the loans off? It's not enough to keep us going.
No, it's not, because it's right now we don't capture that funding. It goes straight back to the SRF.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
right. Yeah,
So
it
we
goes
don't have
back.
to use it again.
No.
Okay.
And the Barnstable County set theirs up in a way to be able to do that. So a discussion to have with the board here is to possibly do an article at town meeting for next year's town meeting, or even special town meeting in the fall, to be able to set up a fund to do that.
Would it, if you set that up and everybody agreed to, would the repay be enough to keep?
Hope so. It should be able to do it. We would have to be a lot more strict than what we are now. Originally, the reason we didn't have any real what's the word, parameters on it before, is because it took almost 8 years to spend the original $2 million.
Yeah.
But now that we're requiring people to connect to sewer, and sewer is expanding, and the IA system upgrades are coming in, those two regulations, 64 and what's the Nantucket
51.
regulation? 51. I was going to say 54. 64 and 51, those have really pushed this program. So from its inception in about 2008, we've given out $6 million in loans.
Yeah. A friend of
Eight-
mine sold his house, Ray Moore, in Field Ave. He had to tie in a sewer, cost him $140,000.
Yeah. That's just what's happening. So we need to start looking into capping, or else we're going to be losing those $2 million in the first few months that we get
Yeah.
the loans.
Yeah.
So
Are the new state Title V regulations impacting us? One's about essentially you have that everyone has to.
they're going to
where
impact
are we
us.
with that?
They're going to impact us. We're way ahead of it.
Right.
With Nantucket and the Nantucket Harbor. However, in preliminary discussions that we're having, they're probably going to set a TMDL for Maya Comet and Sacajah as well. So those two watersheds might be affected, and that's what will affect us the most. But we are way ahead of the new Title V for Hummock,
Is there
Nantucket,
any
and
additional monies coming from the state because of an increased
We specifically
demand for
asked.
IAs?
we specifically asked that. They point at the SRF saying, you can ask, but we have to, because our governing body is town meeting,
Yeah.
we have to ask for that funding at town meeting
Okay.
each year.
So September might be an opportunity to.
Yes.
Okay.
But correct.
Yeah.
Don't you think, being so far ahead, there's other communities which they've given, 5 years to come up with
Yes.
their, watersheds and all
Oh,
that.
Yeah, we're
it's
also
down
getting,
this is all down the road,
Yeah.
but we've done this, we
Yeah.
could be like a model for
absolutely.
what they're looking to do.
Absolutely. When we spoke to Millie Garcia Serrano at the Lakeville office, and we explained everything that we had, and and I even sent them the regulations, it was one of those conversations of just, oh, we didn't realize how far ahead you were. They knew we were they knew we were ahead of this, but they didn't realize that we had been using the Mass Estuaries Plan as our basis from the very beginning, which is what they did. So we're still going to get the same leeway. They're giving us that same 5-year leeway. But they're not worried about Nantucket is really the truth. They're more worried about the Cape.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, we have no objection to this
Okay,
loan.
so can I get a motion to accept the loan request? Approve.
I'll move. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman says aye.
Health Imperatives has asked that we move the needle exchange discussion to next month.
Okay. Next is variance request for 17 Titakamo Drive setbacks.
Yes, and I believe Mr. Wilson, you're here for 17 Takamo as well, correct?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Santa Maria and Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, Michael Wilson on behalf of Dr. Luciana Bretz-Pivy and her husband, Lohana Rouge. I have with me also Mr. King, the surveyor.
Yes. So this is a, sorry, I'm trying to put it in find a packet so that I can post it as well. So give me just a moment. So this is a variance request for boundary line setbacks, as well as a foundation setback for a new construction. Let me actually post it here so that people can see it at home. My apologies, I put the staff recommendation on. So really what it comes down to, and Michael and Teddy, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. It is 5 feet variance from boundary lines and from the foundation of 5 feet is really the truth. The plan is in the packet. I know it's not really visible for people watching at home, but it is a pretty tight lot. And but there is work that is being done. It is because it is new construction. I will move over to the staff recommendation and then I'll let Michael take over. The staff recommendation is that it to deny the variance because it is based on new construction. However, we are here at the board specifically to have that discussion. And Michael, feel free to step in whenever you would like.
Thank you, Mr. Santa Maria and Mr. Chairman. This is not new construction. The property exists. It was a failure on a transfer for complying with the Title V regulations that triggered the system upgrade that Mr. King designed. And in the initial phase of the design, it would seem, and consistent with the staff's recommendation, it would seem that this system might fit in the backyard. Mr. Santa Maria, I had emailed you a photo and I'm not sure if it made it into the application package, but I also have it here. The actual backyard is retained by a pretty significant, not dry stack, but a stone wall, and there is very mature tree vegetation in the area as well. And then the grade steps up significantly, whatever the height of that wall is. Mr. King might be able to better estimate it, but it looks to be at least 3 feet of up lift from where the tanks would be proposed. And in that picture, you can see the orange spray paint markings. The tanks are going to go in the driveway proper and then down the driveway to the front yard as applied for. If we were to have to utilize the backyard space, I guess there's a lift mechanism that would need to be utilized because of the grade difference. We'd have to pump up, and then also these walls would have to be dismantled. I realize that's not a huge concern for the health department, but certainly a big monetary expense. And then also the trees would probably, at least 2 of them from what we have looked at and measured, would have to go. And that I would submit possibly could be a benefit to the overall health of the island, keeping some trees. With respect to the variance and the relief we're requesting, where you locate the system in the front, it's really just the proximity to the road. I think we meet all of the separations from wells. And then the foundation is really de minimis as far as going from 20 to 15. But you can also take a look at the prevailing grade of this property goes from the house down toward the road area. So to the extent that there's a concern of migration of liquids through the soils into the foundation, I think that's minimal, if at all. I would ask the board to consider the field conditions, the fact that the system will be Title V compliant, which is a positive, and otherwise would work in the front yard, and the great expense and the loss of the vegetation in the backyard and the lift pump mechanism, which I suppose is a weak link in that system that could potentially drive future failure, is something that would be eliminated if you gave us the relief.
Where's the existing system now? Was it on that plan?
Yeah, I can pull it up on the plan just a second. So the existing system is over here. This is the existing tank. And then is the proposed relocation here at the front.
How far
Okay.
away is the tank from the house right now?
Ooh.
Mr.
Teddy, can
King?
you answer that?
I'm sorry, what was the
How far is the existing tank from the foundation now?
question?
About what?
I'm sorry, how much?
Teddy King here. It's about 40 or 50 feet away from the house. Kind of near the little garage in the back. And then when the garage was built, they had to put in a lift pump
And how far is it from the foundation of the
to
garage?
get up to that septic tank that goes to the leach field that's in the rear. Probably about 15 feet.
Okay. So it already
Was it a
has-
hydraulic failure or just triggered the sale?
Judd,
Oh, sorry. To my
just chapter 64.
Okay, so
Yeah, it was just at the sale.
what is the, I mean, it sounds to me like you're trying to maybe utilize the back of the property. And this is what I would suggest. I mean, we like to, if you can comply with something, we like you to comply. And I can bring up many examples how we, people want to keep their tank close to their new addition, but they could move it and comply. So we made them move it. If you're looking to get separation to a full cellar or maybe a potential pool that's back there, you could use drip dispersal for a new leach. If you're going to spend the money to do this, try to do this new system anyways, you can get 5 feet to a full cellar, finished space, and a pool. I think that would be, if you're actually looking to utilize the backyard. Is that what the potential owners are trying to do?
We have no knowledge of that. But a drip dispersal is actually a good.
Yes.
Yes,
But it is.
Yes, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just received an email in this hearing from Dan Malloy. This is a septic repair of an existing 4-bedroom septic. The existing permit is for 4 beds and the application is for 4-bedroom. This is not new construction and is therefore entitled to the requested dimensional relief,
Okay, I think I'm
to the extent that helps.
Michael, am I mistaking the two that were on the agenda? Is the Bank Street the new construction one? Because that's a basement, correct?
I asked that come off. Yes, that's that is not this application. That would be new construction.
Okay.
This is existing.
My apologies. That was me. I read the two. Yes, Bank Street is the new construction one, and that's been removed from this agenda.
Thank you.
My apologies, Michael. Thank you. Yeah, so these are existing conditions.
Right, so what I'm asking is why can't the leach stay where it is if it wasn't a hydraulic failure and you just add the IA components? Why are you looking to put the leach down in the front yard?
Yeah, we have.
Clients want to access the backyard, Mr. Chairman, and you are hitting the nail on the head there, envisioning a pool.
So like I said, if I was representing these clients, I'd look into reconfiguring with drip dispersal. I think you're gonna have a hard time with this, having you change the septic and putting it down front just because you want to utilize the back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess, to read the tea leaves on your position on it, I'm wondering from a health perspective in protecting the property owners or abutters, in and of itself, does the system being located closer to the road than would be required, does that pose a compromise?
I think what we're hearing from the chair, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, you can actually fully comply if the leach is a drip dispersal. It's not a matter of location.
And you'd still be able to utilize the backyard with what they want to do.
And you'd
You're gonna
also
spend all that money anyways to try to get a variance to put this leach down in the front. I mean, it doesn't, I don't know if Teddy knew about the drip dispersal part and, but you can get 5 feet to a full cellar, 5 feet to a pool. It might even cost less than what you're trying to do here, changing the whole septic around.
Not positive. I would defer to Teddy on that, but it might
Yeah.
be just the available space in the yard that was driving the design.
Yeah.
But if the board's inclined to deny the variance request rather than force the vote, I would just
Would be-
withdraw.
and correct me if I'm wrong too, in putting in the IA, you can get one of two things, separation of groundwater or reduction in size of the leach. So
Mhm.
there's another option too, reduction in size of the new leach.
There's options to be
Yeah.
compliant, and that's
Thank you.
when those options exist, it's a tough sell to say that there shouldn't be compliance.
Okay, so, listen,
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
may I ask that the application be withdrawn and that you take no action on it?
sure. Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, now we're gonna skip over to the ratify emergency condemnation of basement at 40.5 Essex Road.
Yes, so this one, these next two condemnations are pretty rough. My apologies, it's just, we've had to deal with it pretty often. So in this one, this one at 40.5 was an inspection by Jake Visco, and I think by himself. What he found was there is no working toilets, there's no working smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. There's no heating, and there's no exits. There's no proper exits in
What
the
does he
basement
mean?
here.
There's no working toilets, there's no water?
No, not in the basement. No. Person was living in the basement and having to walk through the house to get to a restroom, to go
But are
upstairs.
there toilets in the bathroom and in the basement, or is it just nothing?
Oh, there was in the basement, but it just wasn't working. Exactly. So we did condemn the basement of that building as an emergency, and then the tenant did vacate the premises, but we need the board to ratify that vote.
Any questions?
So the people are gone.
Yes.
Is this has there been history at this particular address in the past?
There is a lot of history in this address with improper tenancy. This is the first time we ever saw this, though.
Is there any hope of them taking care of the problems?
Yes. And we are working with the property owners. They do understand that if this doesn't get corrected in this is the most egregious we've seen it. The property owners do understand that they're in a very tight place with the covenants on their property.
Yeah.
And if they don't come into compliance, then the courts may become involved. Because there are deed restrictions on this property about finishing the basement.
All right, so what are you looking for?
Just a ratification of the condemnation.
Can I get a motion to ratify the emergency condemnation order at 40.5 Essex?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, ratify emergency condemnation of basement at 44 Union Street.
Yes, so this one is a situation of both hoarding and an illegal basement tenancy. We had heard about this property before, but we were never allowed in until this current tenant allowed us into the property. Once we were in, it is definitely one of the more difficult situations we've dealt with. With the pictures are in the packet. There's no reason to put it on YouTube right now. If anyone is interested, they can go to the packet. It is a very tough and sensitive property that we've been working with. And we do feel that we were not able to get into the house proper, but we were able to stay in the basement and get into the basement. So this condemnation is just for the basement, but we are looking to possibly get into the rest of the building to see if it's in the same condition.
Does the owner realize that that this is just a start?
We've made that, I believe we've made that clear to her. That's why they're not letting us into the property again, back into the building. But we were able to emergency condemn from what we saw on the basement.
Well, if the basement is that bad, do you have any power to get in the rest of the building?
We are trying to work with the property owner to get into the rest of the building. Otherwise, we would have to go for an administrative warrant through Nantucket District Court.
Okay.
Is the fire department, I mean, given the hoarding situation, I mean,
Yes.
do they have any ability to get in faster?
Yes, they are aware. We actually, John has put this on our problem properties task force, so that we will do a coordinated response with fire, zoning, building, health. So as soon as we can negotiate with the property owner to get in. Yes. But if they don't let us in, we will use the next steps. And that's everything from a Chapter 140 inspection with the fire, where they can oversee some things. And if there's anything, they are mandated reporters, so they would be able to report certain things or use the administrative warrant for the rest. Chapter 140 is, there's a lot of restrictions. Enforcing a Board of Health order through Chapter 140 inspection is can be deemed an unlawful search, depending on what is reported. So we would most likely go through an administrative warrant process with the courts.
Any other questions? Okay, can I get a motion to ratify the emergency condemnation of the basement at 44 Union Street?
Motion to.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Does anybody have any other topics they want to discuss before we adjourn, or any questions for Roberto?
I guess from the last meeting, and I talked with Roberto about this in the interim, was that whole, not the regulation we have with Naushon Way, and kind of like the purpose of the regulation back, and kind of like how it's now being used for new construction, kind of. And is there, the question I asked, and partly because of ignorance, was the process for having regulations updated and amended so that they kind of keep the original, which was really to protect certain types of things, but to stop the kind of the loophole. So I met with Roberto, and he kind of informed me of the process. So
it's definitely a regulation that needs to get updated.
Yeah.
It was brought up to our attention with the variance last month. So what we'll do is, when John gets back on Monday, we'll start working on looking at what we can update, where the updates are. I would like to put it on the agenda for next month, just for a discussion here to see what you would like to see changed on it as well. And then going from there, start the hearing process as we move forward. And we'll have to engage town council once we get a working draft moving.
Where are we with the last meeting we had, where we had to, we discussed afterwards, where we let that, what was it we talked about the last time? You said we have another one coming up that we're gonna have to approve.
Yes, it was pulled off the agenda,
Oh, it
so
was
we
pulled
got
off?
lucky. Yeah,
But are we gonna still work towards changing that?
correct. Yes, we are still working to change that regulation,
All right.
because, for example, one of the ones that was going to be put in was just like it.
Yeah.
So we're moving forward. It's actually the one I mistook today.
You open the door, they all run in.
It's the one that I actually thought was the new construction one today. So we're going to look into updating that regulation and closing those loopholes.
Okay, anything else? I get a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.